Welcome to the printwand video lesson, Preparing Your Document for Print in Illustrator. My name is Brian Lee, and I'll be your guide as we discuss converting fonts to outlines, embedding artwork into our files, the correct use of color, achieving multicolor looks in a one-color document, setting a document up in CMYK mode, using document templates, and the difference between vector and raster artwork. So sit back and enjoy these lessons, and hopefully you'll learn a few things that can help you to be more effective at preparing your files for print with Illustrator. Welcome to our first lesson, Converting Fonts to Outlines, brought to you by Printwand. Our goal here is to prepare this Illustrator file so that our commercial printer, or anyone that we're handing our file off to, can work with the document and not have to worry about any potential font conflicts. So here we're in Illustrator, and we can see that we have a block of text that's been typed in. The first thing we're going to want to do is to take our pointer tool, and this can be found at the top of our toolbar here on the left, and we're going to want to just click on this block of text in order to select it. After we've finished, we're going to want to head up here to our menu bar and select Type. Then we'll go down and select Create Outlines. So what we're doing here is converting these characters from a font into an image. That way our printers won't need the font, and your type is going to load as though it was a piece of art that had been drawn or placed inside our Illustrator file. They won't have to have a specific font file. They can use the document as is, and everything's going to print correctly. Let's go ahead and save our document in order for the printer to be able to use the file. We'll head up to our menu bar and go to File, and then click Save As. And again, our printer doesn't need any of the fonts. Everything will print exactly as you see in front of you. So this concludes our lesson about converting fonts to outlines. Up next, we're going to talk about embedding our artwork into our files. Welcome to our second lesson, Embedding Artwork into Our Files, brought to you by Printwand. Our first lesson involved preparing an Illustrator file so that our commercial printer or anyone else that we're handing our file off to could work with the document and not have to worry about potential font conflicts. This lesson, our second, is all about learning how to embed our artwork into our Illustrator file. This gives us the ability to give our printer one file, just one document, instead of having to give them multiple files, artwork, fonts, along with our Illustrator document. So if we have our Illustrator file open here, we want to first go to our Links panel. And this is found by going up to our menu bar, going over to Windows, and heading down to Links. Let's make sure to expand the dialog box so that we can see all of our artwork. And so here we can see all of the various pieces of artwork that are in our document. Let's select the first piece of artwork. Now, if you notice this button in the upper right-hand corner of the links box, let's go ahead and select that. And then now we're going to move down here to where it says Embed Image, and we'll select that. If we go back over here and look at our links panel, we'll notice that this symbol in the right of the layer that we've embedded has now replaced our link name. This is what tells us that the image has been embedded into our document. If you'll also notice, this layer has been embedded while all of our other layers have not. So that's basically how you embed images into your Illustrator file. Now, you can do this one by one, or you can select the whole group and embed everything all at once, but that's what gives you an embedded image in Illustrator. So this concludes our lesson. Up next, we're going to be discussing the correct use of color in our Illustrator files. Welcome to the third Printwand video lesson, the correct use of color. Previously, we learned about how to embed our artwork into Illustrator, and now we're trying to ensure the correct use of color in our files, whether that be using Pantone, also known as PMS colors, or a four-color process made up of the inks cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Either way, our goal should be to use one or the other and not both. So here we are in Illustrator. We have our file open, and we can see that we have two seemingly identical pieces of artwork here. When we lay one on top of the other, we can see that there doesn't seem to be any difference between the two. So let's head up to our menu bar. We're going to go over to Window, then head down to Swatches. We can notice that this opens up the Swatches color palette. Now, if you notice the button in the upper right-hand corner of the Swatches palette, let's go ahead and select that. And we're going to want to move down here to where it says Large List View and select that. Let's grab the bottom corner of our palette so that we can see a little bit more of the colors that we have here. So when we select each piece of our artwork, let's notice how the color changes in the swatch palette. we can see how easy it would be for the wrong type of art to be selected, for the wrong color to be used. Let's double click on one of these swatches here to see exactly what's going on in the swatch itself. We can see that this one here is a PMS color. This means that it's one color when it's printed. It only is going to use one ink. So let's close this and we'll take a look at our next piece of art. And we'll notice here that this one is made of a 4-color process. It uses 4 inks: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So this is just one more thing to keep in mind when we're setting up our documents. It's not that one way is right and one is wrong. It's just one more thing to be aware of with our artwork. As you can see, it'd be easy for the colors to be mistaken for each other. Whatever process that we've indicated to our printers, whether that be a PMS color or 4-color, that's how our document needs to be set up. So, in conjunction with that, another habit to get into would always be trying to send original files to our printers or those people handling our documents. In this case, we're dealing with Illustrator. That way, it makes it easier for them if they have to make any changes at some point in the process. They can just go into the document, make their changes, and they have everything they need right there. So this is going to finish our lesson on the correct use of color in our Illustrator files. Up next, we're going to discuss how to achieve a multicolor look when we're using a 1-color document. Welcome to the 4th section of our video. This section is entitled Achieving Multicolor Looks in a 1-Color Document. And as always, it's brought to you by printwand. Last time, we dealt with making sure that our artwork was either 4-color or PMS colors. What we're looking at here is a 1-color job and how we can show some variation in our color, but still only use one PMS or Pantone ink. So we've got our Illustrator file open here, and we can see that we have 2 identical sets of graphics. Each one's made up of 2 different colored images. Let's first take a look at the second set. But before we do that, we'll go up to our menu bar, we'll go over to Window, and then head down to Swatches. And we can see here that it opens up our Swatches palette. Now, if you notice the button in the upper right-hand corner of the Swatches palette, let's go ahead and select that. We'll move down over here to where it says Large List View, and we'll select that. Let's grab the bottom corner of the palette so that we can see a little more of the colors that we have here. Now, when we select each piece of artwork, notice how the color changes in the Swatches palette. We can see that one is one PMS color, and the other is a completely different color. Now, this isn't what we want, so how can we achieve this 2-color effect when we've specified to our printer that we only want to use one color? Well, let's go back up here and we'll look at our 2 images at the top. If we click from one to the other, we can see that they're actually both made up of the same PMS color. How do we accomplish that? Well, let's head over to our menu bar. We'll go over to Window, and down to Color, and this opens up our color palette. And we can see here that clicking on our lighter colored image, we're only using a percentage of the color in order to get that effect. If we move the fader here back up to 100, we can see that the color is identical to the other image. So here we can see how by playing around with a percentage of a PMS color that we're using, we can achieve a multicolor look, but we're still maintaining it being set up as a 1-color document. Well, thanks for following along with us through this section. Our next section is going to discuss how to set up a document in CMYK mode in Illustrator. Welcome to our 5th lesson, setting a document up in CMYK mode, brought to you by printwand. Our last section discussed achieving a multicolor look in a 1-color document. But here, what we'll be getting into is ensuring that our document is set up to be in CMYK mode. This is especially useful when our intent is a job set up for 4-color process. It's not so necessary when we're using PMS or Pantone colors, but it's still a best practice. Let's start by going up to File, and then go down to Document Color Mode. And here we can see that we have CMYK selected already. Now, CMYK refers to cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. These are the 4 colors that make up the printing process. Below that, we see RGB, which is red, green, and blue. Now, this is mostly used for web artwork or video, but not for print. So let's go up here to our menu bar. We're going to go over to Window, and then we're going to head down to Swatches, and we'll open up our Swatches palette. So if we notice this button at the upper right-hand corner of the Swatches palette, let's go ahead and select that. And we're going to move down to where it says Large List View, and we'll select that. Let's grab the bottom corner of our palette so we can see more of the colors that we have here. So let's go back over to File, we're going to head down to Document Color Mode. Go ahead and select RGB. And as we're doing that, let's keep an eye on the swatches palette. So notice how this symbol next to our color name in the swatch palette changed, and it refers to the RGB color that's now been selected. Let's head back up to File, down to Document Color Mode, and we'll switch that back to CMYK. We can see how the symbol has returned to what it looked like before. Notice too that the symbol next to the Pantone color stayed the same throughout the whole process. Again, color mode isn't something that we have to worry too much about with PMS or Pantone colors. So this is just one more area to be aware of as we're setting up our documents. This is going to help our printers save time. And remember too, another habit to be getting into would be to always try to send original files, in this case Illustrator. It makes it much easier if changes need to be made at any point in the process because they have everything that they need. So this concludes our lesson on setting up a document in CMYK mode. Next up, we're going to be covering using document templates. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. Okay, welcome to our 6th lesson. Our previous section covered our document color modes, whether that be CMYK or RGB. And this lesson is going to discuss using document templates. And again, it's brought to you by printwand. So here we have a sample template of a folder that we're working on. Go ahead and go up to our menu bar, go to Select, and then down to the first one there, which is All. If we look up, we can see that the dimension of our templates are 20¼ inches by 16¼ inches. Let's go ahead and deselect our image by clicking off in the area outside of the document. But first, let's take a look and we'll notice these tabs on the left and right sides of our templates. These are what our pockets attach to. They both will fold in, and then the pocket at the bottom of the document folds up, and it's glued to these tabs. This is what creates our pocket. Now for right now, we really don't need to worry about them at this point. It's just something to keep in mind. So now let's click on the Document Setup button up here, just below our menu bar. And we're going to want to hit the Edit Artboards button in the top right of that menu. So we notice here what comes up is a document size of 18½ inches by 16¼ inches. And that's narrower than our template, but that's because of those tabs. So let's hit Escape, and we're going to exit out of our Document Setup view, but we'll continue checking out our document. Let's go up to the menu bar, and we're going to head to Window, and then head down to Layers. And if we look at our Layers palette, we can see that we have our document template as well as our document artwork here on separate layers. And this is exactly what you're looking for. This is accomplished by going down to the bottom of the Layers panel and clicking here on Add a New Layer. In order to work on different layers, all you have to do is click over the layer name, click on that layer, and this will place you in that layer that you want to work in. So if we look just left of the layer name, we're going to notice these two boxes. One contains an eye icon, and this is what toggles the layer on and off. The other contains a lock, and this is what locks the layer in place so that you can't mistakenly move something around that you don't want to. So let's go ahead and make our art layer visible, and we can see how our layout works in relation to our template. So notice here how a portion of our artwork extends past our template lines. This is our bleed area, and this is an area that extends out at least 1/8 inch past our document size. So go ahead and we'll head up to the menu bar and we'll go to View, we'll move down to Guides, and then go over to Show Guides. And now we can see this red line here. This is what represents our document bleed area, and our artwork correctly extends out into this area. So now with our guides on, we can also see these lines that are on the inside of our template. What they are, they represent our artwork live area. They're located about 1/4 inch inside of our document area. And this is the area that we want our art and copy to stay in so that they don't get cut off in the margins. Let's go back over to our Layers palette, and we're going to toggle on our live area layer. Now, we don't have to have a live area layer on our final document, but this is just for the purposes of seeing how things relate a bit more clearly in our document, just so that we can kind of see exactly what things are supposed to look like. So we can see that everything is lined up and laid out correctly on our document. Everything falls within our document template and lines up with our guides. Now, if we notice here these groups of markings at the bottom of the template over our pocket, these are indicators for different groupings of business card slits. And there's a number of different orientations that you can use. But what you want to keep in mind is that after you've selected the area you want to use for your business cards, It's important not to place text or graphics in that specific area. Otherwise, it's going to be covered up by the business card that's inserted in those slits. So here we have some tips to look for when using our document templates and making sure that our files are set up correctly in preparation for going to print. In our final lesson, we'll be talking about the differences between vector and raster artwork. So if you've ever had a printer ask you for those different types of files, this is going to be a really helpful lesson to you. You're going to want to stay tuned for it. Welcome to the 7th and final portion of our lesson. It's all about learning the differences between vector and raster artwork. And again, we're brought to you by Printwand. So we've gotten a lot of good information in the previous 6 portions of our video. But now we're going to end our lesson here discussing the difference between a vector and raster-based image. If we've ever been asked for a document that needs to be specifically one or the other, it's important to note some of the differences. So for this portion, we're going to be using Illustrator, but we're also going to need to use Photoshop as well. So here we are in Illustrator, and we have a piece of artwork that we're looking at. First, let's select our image by going up to our menu bar, head to Select, and then All. Now we want to zoom in real tight on our artwork, as high a zoom as we can. We do this by heading over to our toolbar on the left here, and the zoom tool is located at the very bottom of the menu. Simply click in the middle of the selection of our artwork here, and we're going to zoom in very tight on our image. So we can see how smooth the image is. We get very crisp lines. But let's zoom back out now, and we do this by heading up to our menu bar. We'll go down to View, and then Actual Size. So when we zoom out, we can see that this image is actually made up of a series of points, and this is what creates the piece of artwork. Because of that, we can grab this image and resize it as much as we want. It's always going to maintain its resolution and clarity. If we zoom back in, we notice that it's still very sharp and crystal clear. So now let's go ahead and flip over to Photoshop, where we can look at a raster image. And here we have a similar image to the one that we were looking at in Illustrator. Let's get our zoom tool the same way that we would have here over in Illustrator, and we're going to zoom in pretty tight on the image to see what we get here. So notice how as soon as we get over 100% or so, the image starts to get fuzzy. Now this is because rasterized art is actually made up of individual pixels. Let's go back over to our menu bar, we'll go to View, and then Actual Pixels, so we can get our zoom level back to normal. So here what we've done is imported a layer from Illustrator so that we can see the difference between these two files. Let's click in the left-hand area of the box so we can hide our original layer, and then we'll click our imported layer here to view that. Now this is actually a piece of vector art because it was created in Illustrator. Notice this symbol here on the layer, and that's what indicates that it's vector. So let's go back to our zoom tool, and we'll get in really tight here on our image. And we can see that it still appears fuzzy the way our raster image did, and that's only because we're viewing it in Photoshop. Let's go back up to our menu bar, go to View, and then Actual Pixels, and we're zooming back out here so that we can see our image again. So now we're going to go ahead and enlarge this image, and we want to go maybe more than double its normal size. And this is done by pressing Control-T on the PC or Command-T on the Mac. And you simply drag the handles until you get to the size you want, and then you hit Enter. So here we can see that at 100%, our lines are still crisp and clear. Let's go over to our original raster image, and we're going to do the same. We're going to increase the size on it as well. We'll hide the vector layer, we'll show the raster layer, and again now we're going to press Control-T on the PC, Command-T on the Mac, grab the handles and enlarge it. So right away we can see the difference. Notice how fuzzy this image appears at 100%. And if we toggle back and forth between the two images, we get a better feel for how different the two formats really are. So see, these are some of the main differences between the two pieces of art. That way you're going to know what to look for when someone asks for a piece of vector art or a piece of raster art. Well, I want to thank you again for watching our video lesson, Preparing Your Document for Print in Illustrator. Hopefully it provided you with some good knowledge for when you're getting ready to submit your files to your printers or anyone else who may be working on your documents when working with Illustrator. Make sure to check back often to Printwand for more video lessons as well as other articles to help you with your marketing and promotional needs.